mixing, and I don't like the mine sound really much, so I'll mix it in post. But tell me about yourself. What's your background?
So I guess I'll start from the beginning. I'll start from the beginning and work from there. I grew up all over. My dad was a banker, and so I was born in San Francisco, California, and lived there till I was 8. And we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. So we went to the other end of the country and learned how to say y'all and speak with a different accent. And was there until 7th grade when we moved to Kansas City. So I was in Prairie Village, Kansas, Shawnee Mission East High School, and went to middle school there. So learning the Midwest, and again, different accent, different types of kids. And so moving was a fixture for me in my childhood. And joined the band in North Carolina. I was a little trumpet player when I started, and then was in middle school and high school band in Kansas City. And about the time I was Colin's age, my son, when I was about a sophomore, junior, I realized that I was pretty good at the trumpet. I had wanted to quit about 5 or 6 times. My dad wouldn't let me. And about that time, I figured out that I was pretty good at it, and it seemed like a fun job. And I thought, I think I could do this every day. I think I could teach music.
Trumpet was a fun job. You thought being
in music, being in band. Okay. Yeah, so that's really when the seed was planted, and I thought maybe I could be a teacher.
In high school? Was this high school you said?
Yeah, when I was around that age, around 15, 16 years old is when I decided that I want to be a teacher. So had a bunch of influential teachers growing up and amazing music teachers, and I took private lessons with Stan Kessler, who's been named the best jazz trumpeter in Kansas City a couple times, teaches at UMKC. I would go to his house and we would have a drum set lesson followed by a piano theory lesson followed by a trumpet lesson.
Oh, wow.
So I'd have these 2 hours lessons, and it was amazing. So had some great teachers, and I had heard at a camp that Texas had the biggest bands and that they would have 2, 3, 4 band directors. And in Kansas City we had 1, and our band was 110 kids or so. And we were pretty good for what we were. And then my dad got another job at a bank in Chicago, so they moved in. The Alstrin family name, we're a Chicago family. Okay. A lot of roots in Chicago, and so he moved back to be closer to his mother as she was getting older, and I went to Texas. So I went to TCU, this is back at, my parents trusted me to drive down to TCU by myself from Kansas City and explore it, take a trumpet lesson. And that's when I decided that that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to be a horn frog. Happy to say that it's on my son's top 3. There TCU is, and got a good golf team there and good band program. And it's close. That's right. Yeah. And that's one of my big regrets is I couldn't go home to do laundry or get a meal. It was an 8-hour drive. Yeah. So ended up at TCU and then studied music education and got my first job. A student taught at LD Bell High School in Bedford Junior High and HEB ISD. Yep. And then had connections in Richardson ISD, people that I knew from TCU, and went out there and had 2 interviews in a day unexpectedly, and I was offered a job the next day. So my first job was as the 4th director at Lake Highlands High School, starting in the year 2000, and taught there for 6 years. Okay. And then decided that I wanted to get my master's, so I followed the breadcrumbs. Success leaves clues. So I found some of the smartest people that I could find, and I went to study with them. So at the time, I'll name names that don't mean anything to you, but in the band world, Eddie Green and Tom Bennett and John Benzer, David Bertman are some of the legends, and they were all at University of Houston. And at the time, University of Houston had arguably the best, if not one of the best, wind ensemble band programs in the United States. Of course, UNT has another. Had I known more, I might have gone to UNT for my undergrad, but I ended up at TCU. I didn't realize that UNT had the mecca of jazz with 10 jazz bands, and I had no idea. Yeah. So I went to University of Houston for my master's, was there for a year, and they said, hey, we want to hire you as the 3rd band director. So they hired me at U of H. So I finished my master's while I was on the faculty, and the head director retired, and so I got moved up to the 2nd position. So I was doing the 2nd college band. We were top 25 in football. We had a great basketball team, but I had only taught in public school for 6 years.
Okay.
And so here I was 3 years into U of H, asking myself, wait, is this where I want to be? Is this what I want to do? And again, I'm around brilliant people working on the most amazing music with amazing students. But I also had a little bit of imposter syndrome, and I didn't need to be teaching college classes. I wanted to be in the classroom. And so I got a phone call, call it serendipity, call it divine order.
Yeah.
I got a phone call from the band director at LD Bell High School where I had student taught. And at the time, LD Bell had just won Grand Nationals in 2007. And here I'm getting a phone call in 2009. So in 2008, they were runner-up. They were second at Grand Nationals. And I said, yes, please. I would like to come work for LD Bell. So I gave up a college position to go back and teach high school and not be a head director at the high school level, just be on a team. So I was one of the 4 band directors at LD Bell. Brandon Holt was another one of the band directors at LD Bell at that time. And we had a great run. We were third at state. I think we were second at state. We were second at Grand Nationals or third at Grand Nationals again. And then had another run at Grand Nationals. We slipped to 10th, but we maintained and we kept the ship afloat, and we had a great success for high school band. And that, I think, was enough to turn some heads. And so when Dr. Drew Watkins, was making phone calls for new band directors, he actually called a colleague of mine, the director at Marcus High School, who was also number 1, number 2 with LD Bell. And she mentioned that I might be looking. And so...
Had you told her you were looking?
No. That or she, I don't know what she said, but she mentioned my name to Drew Watkins. Yeah. And so Dr. Watkins called me, and I had to look Prosper up on a map, as most people do. And that one, and you get it confused with Ponder a lot. So I looked it up. He told me that they had just passed, I think it was a $700-something million bond. Yeah. And that they were growing, and I should come check it out. So I came up on a Sunday, met with him for 2-3 hours, to learn more about the district, and then I went through the interview process. And
this is 9?
This is 2014.
14. Okay.
So I was at Bell from 2009 to 2014, and so got the job. We decided to have our 3rd child, and Christina changed her job, and we moved from Colleyville to Prosper, Texas, and found a house. At the time in 2014, it was still tough to get a house here. Yeah. I mean, we were making offers, and we looked in light farms, but we wanted more land, so we were looking for a house that was built in the 90s that had. So we're on an acre in a little bit. Perfect. Yeah. And because we wanted to have chickens, we had an issue with our. We still have chickens. There you go. Half dozen.
That'd be nice.
And we had an issue with our HOA in our previous neighborhood. Pays to be married to an attorney, right?
Oh yeah.
So I could tell that story. It's a great story. We ended up winning.
We went write you a paper.
Yeah, right.
That's the next best thing.
We went to court, won.
Against the HOA?
Against the HOA.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that.
I mean, HOAs are great, but we will never choose to live in a neighborhood with an HOA again.
I swore never again, and we're so whatever.
So again, it's a great story, but I don't think I want to share it on the podcast.
No,
but
it's okay.
So we picked up and moved the family up to Prosper, got that acre so that we could have the chickens, and we've been there ever since, and we love it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So a half dozen chickens now. We keep them cooped up all the time because of the bobcats and a coyote.
Coyotes and bobcats?
Oh yeah, and we've got fences, but it doesn't matter. They find a way, right? And so we've lost a few chickens, but we're now savvy chicken farmers.
I've read that there are more coyotes now than there ever have been before in the United States.
Wouldn't be surprised, yeah. And as we're building these new neighborhoods, they keep finding our neighborhood because we're right by General Creek, so there's plenty of room for them to hang out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, very nice.
Yep.
So you earlier or another time we were visiting, you said you chose Texas because Texas was a big music band place.
For sure.
It seemed like a smart geographic decision to go and hang your...
If I wanted to go trade stocks, I would move to New York, right? I'd go to school where I could go learn how to do that. But it made sense to go to a state where the bands were huge and well-known. And like I said, 200-300 kids in a band. Well, when in the Midwest, we just don't have that. And if you go back to I've judged a contest in Kansas, and they're still the same size.
Oh, really?
And they're about, 5-10 years behind us.
Yeah.
As far as the evolution of the sport goes, marching band, that is. if I can call it a sport, which I will.
It is. I mean, they work harder than some of the football team, I'd argue.
Well,
do.
I know this. I know that our football team was working super hard because I drive by them every day.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying some football teams.
For sure.
Our bands work harder than a lot of football teams. Other ones.
We hear that a lot from other administrators and people that are in the know when they see how hard the band kids work. And it goes for most of the fine arts programs. They put in more time and effort than most people realize, but it's not because they have to; it's because they want to.
Kids want to.
Just like with any art form, once you get hooked, that's all you want to do. You just want to play that instrument, play the piano, play the drums, and you have to try to get them to stop breaking into the school so that they can practice, which they don't do,
awesome.
But they would if they could. Yeah.
Of course they don't.
So I was Prosper High School's band director from 2014 to 2018, and after 5 years, had the opportunity to move into fine arts administration. So I've been the fine arts director. This is my 5th year for Prosper ISD.
How are you liking that?
I love it. It's fantastic. It's ever evolving job. I was the first fine arts director, so there was no handbook, there was no manual. I got to write it, and I just figured it out. So the first thing I did was I went around to all the teachers per Dr. Ferguson's recommendation, and I asked them what's going well, what's working, what's not working, and what can I do for you? If you had a wish, what would it be? So I spent that first year going around.
What was the biggest wish from them?
Well, I would say the overarching piece was support, and mostly from the singleton type teachers. So when you think about it, if you're the only middle school choir director, you're the only choir director on that campus, sometimes you need a sanity check because no one else speaks your language other than the middle school choir director at the other middle school, right? And so you phone and text messages. Or if I'm the only music teacher at Light Farms and I've got 1,100 kids and I've got to learn all their names, lesson plan, and teach bell to bell to bell all day. It's a lonely job, and so they lean on each other. The fine arts teachers and the specials teachers, they lean on each other for support, for that camaraderie and to be lifted up. And so it can be lonely, and so I've worked really hard to try to expand our staff so that they do feel that support. I bring in people from the outside, hire consultants and clinicians to come and recharge our people. So I look for sometimes retirees, people that used to be in their profession, and I can pay them hourly to come and
That's awesome.
Be that coach, be that mentor for some of our people. So that's been one of the big missions that I've had in fine arts, is for that people to feel the network of support and to keep each other going, because we just lose too many teachers nowadays.
Is it hard to find good teachers? Or are they coming to you now?
Of course, it's hard to find good teachers, and
Was it music teachers?
It's difficult. And however, we are still fortunate in Prosper ISD that we're a destination district, and people are wanting to come here from the surrounding districts. They hear about the great things that are happening in Prosper, and so I had new employee orientation yesterday, and I had about 25 new fine arts hires for the district, and I told them as we introduced ourselves, and we're getting 10, 15-year vets. I've got a 30-year vet from Plano. I told them, your first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
There was 100 applicants for your position. You were hand-selected. Some of them, I told them, you were the 5th set of interviews. We went through 5 sets of interviews before we found you.
Oh, wow.
So I say it's hard only because I think it's always hard to interview and find the right person for our kids. I mean, I have 3 kids in the district myself, and so when I'm choosing, and I've hired a majority of the fine arts teacher, as we're choosing these people to work with our kids, that is the toughest job that we have, is to find the next Prosper teacher that has the Prosper heart, because resumes are misleading sometimes, and sometimes it's tough in an hour to get to know somebody and really know who they are in their core essence and what they're going to be like in October when it starts to get cold. Like, how are you going to be then? How are you going to be the first day after winter break? What are you going to be like? Those are
you spent an hour talking to them? Just trying to
at least, at least.
Good.
So between phone calls,
so you do,
reference
or the school
checks,
does, and they want this person, and they say you check them out, or do you see them first and then?
No,
send
that's
them
a good question. Typically, I'm on a committee with campus administrators, so a principal or an assistant principal or both.
Okay.
And there's times that we're double booked and we can't all be there, or we'll chime in on a Google Meet or a Zoom call. But we typically have 1 interview. Sometimes we have 2. Sometimes we have them practice teach, and we want to see them teach a group of kids. Or
so
we'll
you're
ask
talking
for
last year before the kids were for summer. You're talking about like if they're interested, you hear months ahead of time, maybe.
Yeah, you're asking the timeline.
No, like practice teach. How do you bring the kids in, or is it like with the faculty and
so
teach it like
in the
like
situations where we've done that, it will usually be in session still, and so we
Okay.
might invite an elementary art teacher to come present a lesson to a current class at a different campus, just to see how they are and see how the kids respond to them.
That's cool.
Or we'll ask for a teaching sample where we say just hide a video camera. Tell your kids that you're putting up the iPad because you want to watch yourself teach a little bit, and then we'll get them teaching in their current context, in their current environment.
That's good.
And we can glean a lot of information off of those videos.
I bet you can.
Yeah.
Until my involvement with the Prosper band, my music involvement was with Alex Juarez at Life Farms.
Oh, yeah.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
That guy was, I know we have a lot of great ones. I haven't interacted as much with the new ones, but just the guy loved music and the kids love music because of it.
Yes, Mr. Wars.
Like,
Mr. Wars was loved, and he's moved on to, and he's doing amazing things as well. And that's the whole thing, is sometimes we lose them too quickly, and we want to hold all of our best teachers, but people have life changes, and sometimes their partner says, I got a better job and we've got to go.
We're going,
and so we can't hold them all.
Nope.
So that's some of the turnover. And some people, this is the other thing that we're facing as a society right now, is just teacher pay is what it is. And even with a $32 billion surplus, the state doesn't always get their ducks in a row, and they don't really invest in education maybe the way they could. Yeah. When we look at how much is spent on Texas education comparatively, the United States, we're not the highest. I can say that.
Yeah.
So say that to say this: when you have a hardworking, talented, respectable person who has that work ethic and that sense of duty, they are very enticed by corporate gigs or jobs where they can work at home and make six figures. Mm-hmm. And they take that skill set that they've honed in the classroom, and they can adopt that basically into any field. Yeah. And because of their moral compass and their character, they tend to rise to the top in whatever that field is. I've just seen a lot of my colleagues in the band world and just in education and fine arts that have been able to take their skill set and apply it to a fill in the blank, and they're just rock stars. Yeah. So that's one of the things that we have to ask ourselves as a society, is what are we going to do to entice the smart, amazing people to become educators and then stay educators? So I think that's the challenge.
It's a tough one.
It is. I'm glad I don't have to solve that problem, but I have plenty of ideas. Right?
Yeah, funny. They'll find you.
I think a lot of people have plenty of ideas.
Yeah, it's implement.
It seems so easy on the outside to think, oh, I can fix that. I could do that. But when you have things like state representatives and people that have different agendas, and it's tough to get anything accomplished. It's tough for us to pass any of these laws, and there's a lot of suspicion about education and educators in general.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's easy to kind of become victim to the slings and arrows and lose faith and want to jump out. And so other people watch that, and if they see people migrating away from education, why would they want to go into it? So there's a shortage of educators in the universities. I think some people have decided, okay, the footprints in the snow are going that way. Why would I run towards the burning building? I don't think it's that bad, but in Prosper ISD, we don't have the problems that some of the larger districts around us have. So we do have some openings still, but nothing compared to the large districts.
Yeah. So you enjoy it. You enjoy your position. You enjoy
what
you're doing now.
I love it. I love the variety. I love helping teachers. My main thing is student engagement. We've had some shifting in our org chart that Dr. Ferguson had in mind, and so Fine Arts is now under the Office of Student Engagement, along with Valerie Little with athletics and Racy Kane with UIL academics. We're looking for ways to get kids plugged into the schools and stay plugged into the schools. And when we
find a smaller group to be involved in.
Yeah, find something to be, whether it's a club.
Okay.
Or the band.
That's what I like
or
about the
theater.
Band. That's just my experience. I was a cellist. I played in the orchestra growing up, so it's kind of, we didn't have to march in the summertime with a cello.
I helped start the orchestra program in Prosper ISD. So my second year as the band director, we had 300 kids in beginning band at Rogers.
Okay.
And I said to Dr. Watkins, there's enough kids for orchestra. And we were getting some people in the community who were asking about when we were going to start orchestra. And I said, 100% I think we should start orchestra. There's enough kids to go around. Orchestra kids are slightly different from band kids.
Yeah.
There's some overlap. But if I wasn't able to advocate for music education, I'm not sure who would.
Yeah.
So if I believe in music education, which I do, then of course I'm going to advocate for an orchestra program. I'm not going to be greedy and say I want all the kids in the band. And so fortunately, we do have enough amazing, talented kids. And this is one of my core beliefs is there's enough amazing kids in Prosper ISD for all of our programs to flourish, period, the end. And so, one of the reasons the last reason that I was so adamant about starting orchestra was when I was in high school back in Shawnee Mission, Kansas, I was part of the full orchestra, so winds, percussion, and strings. And we played at the Midwest Clinic in Chicago, which the Rushing Band was invited to this next year.
That's cool.
We played in Chicago in 1992, and that is the largest international band and orchestra clinic. And so if it weren't for orchestra, I would not be where I am today. So
interesting. Okay.
Anyhow, yeah, it's amazing to see the growth of the orchestra programs in Prosper as well. And I mean, the music that they play, it's really, really mind blowing, to be honest with you, how good all of the fine arts programs are. And that's one of the things I love about my job is I get paid to go to amazing dance concerts and art galleries and band concerts, fill in the blank, art
theater,
band, all of it. Yeah. And, it's just spectacular. And with having young kids of my own, I drag them along and I do what we all should be doing, taking our kids to go see live shows.
Yeah.
And so my kids have grown up seeing a variety of things and amazing things, better than most universities, to be honest with you.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Do all your kids involved in music of some sort?
No, actually not. Addison will be. She's joining the Rogers band next year. She'll play flute. She's going to 6th grade. Colin is a trumpet player in the Walnut Grove band, in addition to being a golfer. So we're doing golf and band.
Yeah.
And he loves it. Right now they're in marching band camp, and when he's not doing that, he's going up to practice golf. So he is busy all the time.
Does he have your old trumpet?
He does, but I got him a much nicer trumpet. Yeah, he uses mine to take outside to do marching band with, and I'm like, it's fine, it's fine.
It's too late.
I mean, that thing has paid for itself about 80 times over with the amount of gigs.
I played trumpet for a year when I was younger, and my siblings, I'm one of 8 kids. The other ones were playing violin. The trumpet did not go with the violin, so
I can see that.
The cello, and my hands are huge, so the violin did not work
fit.
for me. So
you had the fortune of being able to change your path, and sometimes
I was pianist at first. I want to play the trumpet. My parents said you have to play piano for like 3 or 4 years before I'll let you play the trumpet. I'm like, okay, because my uncle gave me his old trumpet.
Yeah.
And so I played the piano, and that was an easy go between any instrument.
Yeah.
Because of the keyboard foundation.
Our kids are not playing piano. We have a piano.
Yeah.
I mentioned, and they play on it every once in a while, but they don't play. I wish that's on me. Fine arts director doesn't even have his own kids play piano.
It is what it is.
But I think that when we think about our parents and our grandparents' generation, like my grandpa played violin and cornet in a dance band at University of Virginia while he was in med school. When we think about what it is to be a Renaissance man and to be well-rounded and well-versed, I mean, I think that sometimes we limit our kids because things are so hyper-focused and specialized. When we think about, like, both my daughters are playing club soccer, and they're both really good, and mom played soccer at SMU, and so I see them kind of going that path, but I'm glad we're hedging the bet with band, and that's the amazing thing about Prosper. We can take multiple electives in 6th grade. So Addison's going to be in dance and theater and art and band. Yeah. And that doesn't happen across the United States. But that just goes to show the support that Prosper ISD has. But they will all find their way into music somehow because it's kind of, again, one of our principles, core values. But
yeah, that's fun. I have 2 in the marching band this year.
They sound great. They look great already.
They sound great,
it's not even August, and they're doing the Spirit Show. And
I'm amazed. I've been blown away.
When I drive by, I roll my windows down, and it feels like fall again. Yeah.
It feels like fall on the sound. It doesn't feel like fall in the air.
No, not at all. No.
Those who are not in Texas have no idea.
It's a frying pan.
It's a
here.
frying pan.
It's awful.
It's a hot fall.
You stay inside. That's
yeah,
right.
but I've my other kids seem to be more athletic and doing volleyball and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's which is fine. I had my parents push a lot of music, and I love music. I had various scholarships on voice to various universities. Did not take it because I didn't want to. I joke, but I didn't want to sing. If you make it in music, you'll be singing opera in Germany somewhere, and that just doesn't sound
right.
I'm like, nah, that's not a life I want. So it's like to step back and go, what direction is the right direction?
It's funny to me. I mentioned that I think that we're so hyper focused on specializing in something, but I think Texas fuels that a little bit. I discovered in golf, by the time that we had made it to our first tournament at 10 with Colin, we found out that there's kids that are homeschooling so that they can focus on golf.
And they play 8 hours a day.
Correct. And so you name the sport or activity, there are people that are making those choices and they're specializing in that and they're playing year round, fill in the blank, just to stand a chance. And now the product of that is by the time they get to high school and by the time they're seniors in high school, we have some of the best. And they go fill the ranks at the universities. So we do create players. Yeah. But sometimes we create burnout. And so that's why we've tried to maintain, and of course we haven't forced my son to stay in golf and band and all AP and honors classes. We haven't forced that. He's chosen that path. Okay. But there are times that we have to lift him up and go, no, keep going. You got this. Yeah. And we tell him, when you're an adult, it doesn't get any easier. No. It gets harder. And if you choose to have a family.
We're adults. We know this.
Yes. If you choose to have a family, it gets way harder. Right. Yeah. So it's not going to slow down. So the best that we can do is equip our kids to have the tools and the mechanisms and to be organized. Learn how to get up when the alarms goes. Yeah. So I'm all for kids being involved. And does it come to a point where it's too much? Yeah, potentially. But then you let them choose. Yeah. So maybe after this year, he may choose golf or band. But we're going to keep that thing going as long as we can. And when I was the band director, I had kids that were varsity football. Basically, any sport you can name, we can find a way. We have kids now that are doing drill team and band. Yeah. So if it's their passion and they want to do it in the fine arts world, we're going to find a way to make it work. So I just think it's part of being a well-rounded individual that's equipped for life. And that's what we're trying to do is get these kids ready for what they're going to have to do.
What is your hope for, I guess, the arts and Prosper for the next 5-10 years? What do you?
My goal for arts is similar to the same goals as athletics and academics. We want students to be engaged. We want students to stay engaged. We don't want kids burning out. We want kids to lean in and make the most out of their middle school and high school. I think most adults would agree that's some of the best years of your life. Some would argue it's the worst years of your life, right? But in Prosper, we have such amazing teachers and faculty and staff that it's like you can't even access all of the opportunities in Prosper. There are so many offerings. So for the arts, mine is that they maintain their root structure in the arts. So if they're a painter, whatever their art is, maintain that. Keep doing that. If you want to be a scientist, fantastic. Stay in the arts. Yeah. The brain research is in. Long-term benefits of studying in the fine arts has profound impacts on neuroplasticity and well into your 70s, 80s, 90s to prevent dementia, Alzheimer's. Music's those amazing. Early foundations. Just look what Einstein said about music. It's the proof is there. And everybody loves music. Everybody listens to music. But unfortunately, it's the same story as when you and I were in high school. You don't want to be a band nerd.
Yeah,
you don't want to be an orc dork. Why would you study music? Why would you be in arts? You should do only sports. And that's my whole thing is kids should do both. Adults should do both. Yeah. Adults need to be painting and drawing. We talk about, there's the stress of the world that we live in. And so one of my visions is if and when we get a performing arts center one day, we have opportunities for community members to come take painting class with some of our amazing art faculty. And
that'd be great.
Yeah, just to come have a pottery class, come learn how to do, because we have the teachers, we have the facilities, and the community needs to turn off the TV and come and do this. And not saying people are all at home watching TV,
but
put
down the phone for a little bit and go interact with
pick up a hobby. And that's where I feel like the school district and the community, there's next level steps that we can take towards serving each other and opening our doors and things like that.
So is that coming, a performing arts center?
Yeah, that's on the horizon. I don't know when it's going to happen.
Like our grandkids will see it, or is this like?
I don't. It depends. I guess it depends on your age. Yeah, it is one of the visions that I have, and I believe that that's a shared sentiment with the administration and the community. I think that there is a vision for that. I just don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I know this,
but it's in the works.
I know that we need to build schools as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Because the growth does have friction points on our teachers, and when you are in charge of 32, 25, whatever your classroom can hold, it's tough. And when kids are moving in constantly, especially at the elementary level, it's tough. And again, if you're the teacher that needs to know all these kids' names, it's tough. So I'm all for building schools so that we can lower that student-teacher ratio and get these kids into their own campus instead of doubling in the Light Farms or Spradley or one of the other ones,
That's going to be tough.
Yeah, it is. But we've got plans for that. So the great thing is there's some amazing people in administration that have visions that are parallel with mine, and they have solutions. And so our ability to switch it up and to make changes that impact our stakeholders in our community, we are on top of it. We are working in that direction. And it's pretty exciting to be in that environment. So when you ask if I like my job, I love working with smart people.
Yeah.
And the people that really care about kids. So from Dr. Ferguson down, school board included, we all are here for the kids.
Yeah.
Nobody got into education because they're diabolical or it's just about winning or it's just about self-service.
Really?
Every once in a while you find those people who are like, I'm not sure about you, right?
Yeah.
Every once in a while people get into it for the wrong reasons. But in my experience in going, I have the ability to go school to school to school to check on teachers and to support teachers.
That's awesome.
So as I'm walking down the hallways of all of the schools, I'm telling you, there's more going right than going wrong, and it's inspiring. It really is.
That's exciting. I don't know what I should ask you about. We talked about your hope for the future.
Sure.
So we're
going 30,000 foot view here. I mean, I enjoy my job because I did band for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about theater, and I don't know much about art. So what I do is sometimes I just jump in or I'll go to elementary class and I'll just start doing what the kids are doing. I'll draw Baby Yoda, and a kid will come over to me and they'll ask me, "Are you a professional artist?" And I'll say, "No, I'm just following what it says on the board, like you should be doing."
Follow 1, 2, 3. There's just steps to follow.
Yeah. So I mean, the variety that comes with that is a lot of fun, and because of that, and because I know and I've hired a lot of the fine arts teachers, my ability to help those teachers grow with teaching strategies and best practices, and again, like I said, just lift them up and to keep them going. That part is a lot of fun and very rewarding for me.
You mentioned adding the orchestra. Are there other fine arts things you're wanting to add that are in the works?
Things that people don't know about. We have music production classes going on. So we have these
orchestration, writing soundtracks, writing.
Yeah, for sure. So we have theory labs, music theory labs. So imagine 15.
High school we're talking about?
Yes, sir. So imagine at the high school level, 15 to 18 workstations where we have a keyboard and a computer, and that's where we teach AP music theory.
Yeah.
Well, those studios were going unused for some periods throughout the day, so we started music production class.
That's fun.
So these are kids that are learning how to make film music, TV soundtracks, and it's amazing, of course, with technology how quickly they can make it sound professional. Like you listen to the examples of the recordings and you go, "This sounds like what I hear on the radio," like already. So that's an amazing thing that I've helped to start and create.
That's cool.
And then we started another class called History of Popular Music in the United States, so History of Pop Music in the U.S. So it is also really for kids that maybe didn't find a way into band, choir, orchestra, that wanted to take a music elective because you have to have a fine arts credit. And so rather than taking a theater class or an art class, if that's not what you want to do, there's a music class that you can take.
That's cool.
So those are some offshoots of things that we've done, and I helped start the Suzuki music program at the elementary schools, brought in Rachel Holt, and so we've seen that grow, so we want to see that expand. Our goal is to add a campus or two. I think there's a chance that we're opening a new Suzuki campus next year, which is 50 more Suzuki students.
That's great.
There's a great demand for that, and that's an amazing program. That's where Parents have to come in for the lesson, for their violin lesson, and it's one-on-one with a Suzuki instructor, and the Suzuki instructor has them, whatever their entry point is. It's a lottery system that drives it, and so the parent has to be there for the lesson, and they learn the violin, and then they can progress into orchestra when they get to middle school.
Did your kids do Suzuki, or how do you know about it?
No, I knew about it because we had it at HEB ISD.
Okay.
And Rachel Holt was the teacher there.
Okay.
And so I got to see the impact on the schools, and it's amazing to watch these kids grow up playing the violin. And the violin is just an instrument that you really need to be a virtuoso. Talk about specializing in things. So it's just good for kids.
Yeah.
I wish more of our kids could have that opportunity from the time they're that age.
That's cool. That's neat. No, I inherited my great-great-grandmother's violin.
I have my grandfather's violin.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
As I said, I can't play it. I play it like a cello sometimes like that. I just didn't.
Yeah,
it's different muscles that didn't quite make it because my hands got too big.
I talk to people all the time that say that they wish they would have started a musical instrument, or I wish my parents would have made me stay in piano. And again, going back to that Renaissance man, or what our forefathers had, they played musical instruments. It was part of their life, and partly because they didn't have devices. So they would spend their spare time learning new trades, picking up hobbies, picking up instruments, and that's one of the most amazing things. Is here we are making music with no electricity, like we're doing it with the human body, with our lips, with our hands, with our and I think that is one of the things that keeps us human and keeps us real. Is that's what the arts are. I think they're a counterweight to the amount of technology that we have, and I think the brain research is not quite in. It's slowly coming in about the long-term effects of what having a device from the time you're fill-in-the-blank age. It saddens me to see kids sitting on their iPad
from early on.
You go out to dinner at restaurants, and there's the kids staring. We have a family rule: no devices at the table. And if that's the rule, that's the rule. And you learn how to have conversation.
Yeah.
So unplugging our kids at the right time and then putting them in the arts so that they can learn to dance, move their body, learn how to hold a paintbrush. Because, again, if you're going to be a surgeon, and hopefully the robots don't take over surgery, right? I'm not sure I'm ready for AI and a robot to do surgery on me. I want a human hand, and I want that hand to be steady. So learning how to use your hands, right?
Yeah.
It's just a life skill
the dexterity of music. I mean, it's...
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
So I think it's one of the things that keeps us human, and it's electrifying to be around kids that are making art and doing their thing at the highest level.
That's awesome. Well, good luck. I wish you much luck and prosper as you're moving forward.
Yeah, well, it's an easy job insofar as the community's amazing. I call them our stakeholders, the people that live. Again, I'm a Prosper resident. Yeah. The parents moved here for a reason, and they're willing to pay the taxes for a reason. They heard about the schools. Some may be disillusioned by this or things that they're hearing, and I'm here to tell you, when I walk the hallways and I watch teachers teach, it blows my mind. That we have amazing people here, and that hold, values that are compatible with most of our community. We are more alike than we are not.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm the one that gets to see it firsthand. I get to walk in and see the teachers teaching and seeing the kids create. And my goal is to have more energy at the end of the day that I have at the beginning of the day. And then most days it's like that. Most days I don't want to leave. The days that I sit and do email and too much computer, those are the days I wilt.
Yeah.
And we have to do some of that in education. Any job has to have a fair share of that. But I think that there's so much going on that I wish I could share a scoop of that with people. And hopefully by listening to this podcast, you just have to believe me that it's awe-inspiring. And the thing that if I could make anything happen, if I had a magic wand, I would make it to where more people in our community attended fine arts events. They're good about showing up to a game here and there, but when was the last time you took your family to see the orchestra or the choir or the band play,
or the theater show, musical theater,
the musical?
Yeah.
Like I can't say one without leaving it. You should see the cheerleaders. Under fine art. You should see the cheerleaders when they go to their big competitions. I mean, we have national champion cheerleading squad at PHS. It is poetry in motion. Like watching the choreography of what they do is amazing.
I think it was Brandon Holt who said, I mean, he probably heard it from someone else, but maybe didn't. Just like Friday Night Lights, it's a fine art event. And they have football sprinkled in there too. But it's like, that's like, you go and you have the band, you have the cheerleaders,
Well,
you have the singing the national anthem, you have all this fine arts going on, and then we have football sprinkled in there also. I'm like, that's kind of what it is.
I love watching. I mean, I love football too.
Oh, I do too.
I do
It's
fantasy football.
Do you?
I'm
You any good at it?
struggling Cowboys fan. Yeah, I'm pretty good at the fantasy football. I love, TCU Horned Frogs.
They did go last
hard,
year.
hard to watch the Georgia game, but other than that, beat Michigan though.
Yeah, that's
And my
details.
college roommate from TCU, John Pasquale, is the marching band director at Michigan.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, so he got to go to that game. Of course,
fun.
I did not. But I love football, and I love watching Friday Night Lights. I've loved watching the game. I love watching the expressions of the kids because they're just kids too.
Yeah.
And so I try to have the lens of they're somebody's child. So we try to get the band to watch the game. We try to get the drill team to watch the game. Know when to cheer. Know when to not cheer. When to play. When to not play. Like you're here to support these kids and. Vice versa, we've had football teams show up to our marching band contests and sit in the stands and applaud for the band.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's the kind of community we're trying to create. Yeah.
I love that. It's been amazing to see and to learn. And to
Well,
be a
thank
part
you for your service to the Prosper Band and
I
for
love it.
volunteering and doing
So,
what you do. That's one of those things, and I think that you would agree. The more you give, the more you get.
Oh, for sure. It's like it takes a lot of time, but it's worth it. Every bit of it. It's,
Oh, yeah.
It's seeing. We talked about one of the kids have a place. A lot of times, I've seen the band has been you have friends in high school. I mean, example, Prosper High is huge. It'd be easy to be lost in the crowd.
For sure.
But if you have a smaller group of friends from some club or from band or from theater
somebody to sit by at lunch on day one, an upperclassman to look out for you that can give you a ride home every once in a while.
Yeah.
And again, to your point, having something to connect to, a place to belong, having the band hall to escape to. It's the same thing for theater. Fill in the blank on the fine arts. And what I think is so cool is when kids have multiple places to fit in and go and grow. And so run with the popular crowd, great. And then go put your uniform on and go march Friday Night Lights. And then go play golf and be on the varsity golf team. That's my vision for my personal family is we want our kids to be plugged into multiple places. And the tough thing, again, thinking about it from the perspective of the Office of Student Engagement, how do we get kids plugged in when they move in? Because sometimes when they move in from California or Georgia or Oregon, they don't want to move. They're leaving their friends. They're leaving everything that they know. Maybe they've lived their whole life, but the parents have an opportunity or get a new job or what have you. And we have to think about those kids. How do we get those kids plugged in? That is an essential question that we must tackle and must deal with. And when we think about, we hear rumors of fights at the high school. Well, not rumors. When you hear about a fight at the high school.
They do happen.
Sometimes those are because we have so many kids moving in that there's just friction in the ranks, like who's in charge, who's big man on campus, who said what to whom. And so as we build more schools as fast as we can and we find places for kids to get plugged in, those things should subside, and they will subside.
They will.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, keep up the good work.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's been.
Keep up the volunteering.
Oh, I do, and it's nice. This year we're trying to get more of the parents involved in loading, unloading, and all that.
I think it's so easy to sit on the sideline, and life is short. High school is short. These kids are in it, and it's over. And my son's about to start driving. Let us pray. And I hear that once they start driving, they're gone, and you don't see them anymore. That's what I keep hearing, and so I'm enjoying.
There are ways to make them come back.
That's right. Yeah, have the gas card.
Yeah, exactly. You want gas? You come back to Dad.
So, I'm really enjoying the drives to school where he drives, and I'm nervously holding on, okay, you're going too fast. I'm trying to just take it all in because this is it. This is our opportunity. We've worked so hard. You spend the first 3 years of their life just following them around so they don't bump into things and fall down stairs, and then they can walk, and then they just feel like they're young for so long. And then as soon as they get into middle school, they just go whoop, and then you look at the clock and you go, I only have a few years with you left.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that we're going through now. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I just encourage parents to get involved and volunteer and be present, show up,
Yeah. Your kids will recognize if you're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking as far as the world of artificial intelligence and where this world is going, even more so reason to be involved in a band or music of some sort, because this whole world is going digital and off so fast.
Correct.
But
and
yet go be in band.
Correct.
Go be in orchestra.
Yeah.
Go be in theater.
Unplug.
Yeah.
And we do
unplug off the matrix for a few hours a day.
There are connections between electricity and the arts. I could talk about music production class, and so the computer music's great and all, but organic, real things that keep us human. Like if we could all just unplug, and if we could all just turn our phones off and set our phones down and not look at our phones when we're in conversation, we all need to unplug. And that's the amazing thing is we have arts all around us. It's in all of our schools.
Yep.
It's on the calendar. All you have to do is just show up and go check it out. And I would challenge anybody to go to something that they would never think to go to. Find something that you would never think to go to and make yourself go. And then walk out and ask yourself, was that worth it? And I can almost guarantee
any of the high schools in Prosper, pick one of their shows, one of the band shows, one
and
of the
just
theater
go.
shows. Just go.
Challenge
go.
yourself.
It doesn't matter if your kids are in there or not. Go and watch one of these. Spend 2 hours sitting in the stadium.
And don't let your child be on their phone the entire show.
No, listen.
Turn the phone off.
Watch these kids.
Put it away.
Memorize lines to do something, to go and to play.
And if people say, I'm sorry, my kid doesn't function without that thing, then you know you have a problem.
Yeah, it's time to
throw
that thing away then.
Yeah, phase it out. Phase it out.
Or just cold turkey, get rid of it. One or the other. I mean, they might melt for a few days, but they'll come back.
We had a speaking of AI and Chat GPT. So we had a fine arts signing day for all kids going into fine arts in college last year. This next year we're going to do one for each high school campus because we're already getting too big. And so
fine arts signing day, like scholarship going to university.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, going to study art at University of North Texas.
Yeah.
And we had I don't know how many, I think we had 35 or so kids that were going on to study arts. And at least that filled out our form. I'm sure it was more than that. And some of them had full rides, and it was amazing. So I prepared my speech using Chat GPT. I said, write me a speech, congratulating fine arts graduates. And so I read it. And the people in the audience that knew me knew something was awry because my speeches are usually pretty good, and this one was so generic. It's like it was just so bland and so predictable. Like, so later some of my former students and colleagues said, "Yeah, that didn't sound like you." So I read my Chat GPT script, and then I said, "And that script was written by Chat GPT." And that just goes to show we need more people in the arts that are real, that are human, that can challenge the status quo, that can get you to think differently, because otherwise we're all going to sound like this. And so then I said, here's my real speech. So then I read it, and it was slightly better, but it was still Chat GPT. I said, I got you again. And I said, now here's my real speech. And I turned it over and I told him about creating lifelong memories and how I remember back to second grade when I found a little toy camera and I took a picture, and I said, I'm going to remember that picture for the rest of my life. And I still remember what the lunchroom looked like in second grade. It's like when you tell yourself, I'm always going to remember this moment, and then for some reason you do. Do you have moments like that?
Yeah.
Do you have a memory where you can think of that was a positive memory that you go, I'm going to remember this forever?
Yeah, of course.
So what was yours?
Which one should I talk about? I don't know. Which one should I do?
Maybe one related to one of your kids.
Oh, the birth of my firstborn. Yeah, of course. Birth of everyone for that matter.
And you knew in that moment that something was recording in the back of your brain, right?
Yeah. Holding a child for the first time.
Yeah.
Or wedding, when I walked down the aisle. But holding a child for the first time. And I remember calling my mom and when my parents were both alive at the time, and saying, and she goes, your life's going to be completely different from now on.
Yeah.
I'm like, so every thought you're going to think before going to bed is like, where's my kid?
Yeah.
It's like your life is like, you think that this is really said your life is totally changed.
And there's no off switch.
And like this, you can't turn it off. You always wonder, are they okay right now?
Nor would you want it to.
I don't want to. But I'm like, that's true. But it's that moment of just that holding going, okay, wow.
Yeah.
There's like, this is me, little me in my hands.
So what about high school? Do you have a high school memory that you can share? I mean, I'm turning my podcast around.
For sure. My senior year of high school, I taught English in Moscow, Russia. So I taught, it was over. So getting frisked by these police walking down the aisle one day was one. They saw me visiting with someone. They wanted to find out who I was. They wanted to see my passport, and that was fun. Hold on, turn that back on. Hold on.
Yeah.
This battery dies, or not dies? Is it there? Off recording?
Yeah, good thing they didn't take you in.
Oh, they wanted
You might still be there.
I don't know. I played the cello, played a duet in front of about 6,000 people in Moscow on the cello. So that was fun.
And so do you remember key moments of that? Or is it all blur?
It's all blur. I'm trying to think of like a snapshot that I was seeing something, like mentally a picture.
Yeah.
What do you have? What?
So, boy, I have a bunch as well. I can remember playing in Carnegie Hall with a TCU Wind Symphony and playing one of the pieces that I really enjoyed on the program and looking up and seeing the whole hall, and it hit me that we were in Carnegie Hall, and it was a mental snapshot, like a flash bulb goes on behind you, and just sat there, teared up a little bit, and then went back to playing my part. But I knew that the record device was on in the back of my head. And I have dozens of music related. And because when you think about how music impacts the brain, right? Everything is more connected. Your brain is speaking to itself. It is functioning at the highest level. It is accessing more avenues and synapses in your brain. And I think that's part of why we remember it so well.
Yeah.
That plus adrenaline, that sparks everything. And I think it helps us to remember things. So in the speech, I talked to the kids about deliberately taking control of your brain and remembering those key moments. Choose to record. Take mental snapshots of the good things that are happening in your high school life, because that's up to us. We can choose to remember those moments. You can't hold on to them forever, but you can hold on to the memories. And I worry about kids that are attached to their phone or looking down at their shoes, and they're not engaged. And they're not creating those lifelong memories like maybe you and I have because we weren't so addicted to technology.
We didn't have it.
Yeah. or we didn't have something like the arts or sports or whatever our thing was to help create those moments. So we have to be deliberate about that to create that. And that I think that guides our life, to be intentional about I'm going to create and manifest the life that I want to live. You have to be deliberate. You have to go out and make it happen. And then when it's happening, you have to pay attention and see this is it. Yeah. And I think getting our kids to think like that is what engagement's all about. Engage your life, be alive, be human, wake up.
Present.
Yes, because it seems like we have a lot of people asleep at the wheel. Adults and kids alike.
Worse.
It seems like it.
You don't think it is?
It may be. I don't know if there's a way to measure it. I think that if you sampled the communities, we would all say, yeah, it is. Yeah. It's way worse. But maybe it was just as bad in the 1970s. Maybe we just didn't have a way to talk about it. Maybe it wasn't on the TV. Maybe it was just as bad in the 1800s. Who knows? But it sure seems like we have more distractions. And there's all this research about addiction and technology, and how that messes with the dopamine centers of our brain and how that's released, and we put ourselves in a dopamine deficit. I mean, it's amazing the research that we're experiencing, but now we have to pay attention and do something about it.
Yeah, I think you're right, and the music is pulls you out of that.
It doesn't lie, music. My son's working on a trumpet solo that was written in the 1930s, and I think about that. Him working on a piece of art that was written almost 100 years ago, and it's still just as good. Or when you listen to a Beethoven symphony, the fact that Beethoven wrote that with no electricity, no computer, he had it all in his head.
No hearing.
And sometimes no hearing. That's right.
But at first he did, and then he was
to have a piano and to be able to put that all together in your mind, it's amazing to me. And I think that people have a nostalgia and a fondness for the founders, the people that wrote the Declaration of Independence. I think that we would all say, there were some smart cats. There were some smart people. Well, why? They read more.
Or did music.
Some of them studied music.
Yeah.
They studied the arts.
They studied the arts. For sure.
They studied the humanities. They studied philosophy. And they didn't do it online. They did it in real time.
They didn't do it online.
Every once in a while, I'll say to a class of kids, I'll say, Everybody look at me, stare at me. I'm the TV. I'm the iPad. Look at me. I'm like a real iPad, except I talk to you and I mess with you. Look at that. I'm like the iPad. Don't take your eyes off of me. And then I say, you see, you can sit at home for 6 hours and binge watch a show on Netflix and not even blink your eyes, use the restroom or take a sip of water because you're so into the show, because you're engaged in the show. But as soon as the teacher starts talking to you or your parents, what do? You look away. I said, just look at me like I'm the TV. I just need it. And I said, I'm way more entertaining than the TV. And they usually smile. And then that was one of the first lessons that I learned.
At that point.
Yeah, one of the first lessons I learned was from Marion West, who was the head band director at Lake Highlands High School, and I was a baby band director. And every class, she would say, look at me, I need your eyes. And I was like, she's kind of controlling. Why does she make them all look at her? But it's the first step, like eye contact, right? And I ask my kids, I say, what's behind your eyes? Your brain.
Yeah.
And so if your eyes are doing this, that means your brain is doing this.
Yeah.
So teaching kids how to focus. I think that for kids that are ADD or not, I think teaching them how to focus is a skill that we need to teach them from kindergarten on. How to repeat. Another question I asked my kids, and when I go to classes, I said, who can tell me what the teacher just said? Mm-hmm. No, verbatim. I want to know word for word, what did they just say? And they'll look at me. Now, the second or third time that I ask that, they get it right. Because they're hitting record.
Yes, they are.
They're hitting record.
They're like, this is going to be on the test.
That's right. And I want to be the one that says, I know what they said. Okay, so step 2 is, can you paraphrase what the teacher said? Put it into your own words. Make more connections.
Yeah.
And then step 3, who can take what they said and understand why they're asking you what they're asking you? Who can make a connection to yesterday's lesson and talk about the synthesis of who knows where this is going? Why are we talking to you like this? And that's what I miss about having my own band, because my kids got that and they understood that, because I reinforced that with them. And my kids paid attention. They knew what was going on, because at the end of the day, when you're the conductor, when you have a baton in your hand and you're trying to do really challenging music and you're trying to move 65 individuals exactly in time together, in balance, in harmony, with balance and blend, they all have to be thinking the same way.
Yeah.
They don't have to be thinking the same things.
They'll be on the same page.
But they need to learn how to adjust and use their ears and move as an ensemble. It's like a good football team understanding the play, and they all work in harmony and everything works so efficiently, so perfectly. That's why we like sports, because it's just so efficient when it's like watching the Netherlands just whoop up on USA. We tied 1-1 in the Women's World Cup. The Netherlands, the way they pass the ball, move the ball, it's art, it's beauty, it's amazing. Yeah. And so I see all those parallels between sports and art.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think the key is teaching kids how to think. And like we all try to get our kids to think, right? That's what we're trying to do.
Well, that'll help them in life. It's not just about high school. It's about moving forward.
That's right. And those are the 21st century skills that AI can't do. They can't. Yeah. AI can't quite do what we do, which is create new, unique thought. It can claim to do that, but that's up to us. They
don't have an imagination.
That's right. I think that's the one thing that will keep us one step ahead.
I think you're right.
My biggest fear would be AI replacing teachers. AI that can predict what you need to know next.
Well, that's already there, but I don't know how they can replace teachers.
I don't know how you could either.
Unless it's like everyone's on an iPad and it's like they're in their own little...
That's right, because AI doesn't really care about you. AI doesn't care that you didn't have breakfast.
No.
Right? So that's the heart, the teacher's heart. That's the Prosper heart, and it's not just Prosper. It's education in general.
Yeah.
I mean, people get into it for the kids because they care about kids. So.
I think they do. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was fun.
I hope it was.
I hope somebody enjoys it and gets something out of it.
So, I love the arts. I love music. I love. It's nice to see. I do like that about Prosper, that there's an option for kids to plug into art somewhere.
Yeah.
That's not in every school.
No, it's not.
I think the heart...
Especially in spades like we have it, where whatever you choose to plug into, that's my job as quality control. Whether you do art, band, cheer, choir, orchestra, dance, Suzuki, whatever you're doing, theater, I want it to be the best. I want it to be the best teacher that cares about the kid, that pushes the kid, that makes it a family. That's my standard. Is I want them to all be amazing. And so I went from making bands amazing and winning state or trying to win state or win grand nationals and be highest level and play the best music to now I'm trying to do that with all of the disciplines. And that's the standard that I have. And I just want them to all teach as good as I would expect to have for my kids, because that's why I pay my tax dollars.
And boy, do you.
And boy, do we.
And boy, do we.
That's right.
You know very well.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
John, thanks, man.
Yeah, Bert. It was fun.